Hey guys, so as promised, I have created a video for those of you who've taken the class or taking my in-person software class. I am doing a plushie in the hoop plushie, how to digitize an in the hoop plushie. So a little stuffed animal that has arms, legs, and in this case, a tail. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. We're going to open up our mySewnet software. Tools. I'm going to go to tools because we are doing full on digitizing. I'm going to go ahead and double click on the digitizing. And that's going to open the digitizing with Express Design Wizard. Okay, so the difference between this project and the one you learned in class is I'm going to show you how I decided on the shapes of the design. When you do take my class, everything is done for you. You basically are told exactly what size to make, what shapes to use, everything. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made the decisions. So first thing we're going to do is start a new design with no picture and hit next. I'm going to change my hoop. I want my stuffy to fit in the 260 by 200 hoop. If you had a smaller hoop or you needed a smaller hoop, you could just use a smaller hoop and do the exact same thing, just be in a smaller size. Go ahead and click on OK on there and then finish. That's going to change our hoop to the 260 by 200. I am going to go ahead and change my grid size to 10. I'm not going to use the grid a whole lot on this project, but the 6.4 was just a little small. It was bothering my eyes. Okay, so we are going to use the Quick Create tab. So along the top, go ahead and click on Quick Create. Pattern fill, we are going to turn that off. So we're going to say no fill. And on satin line, we're going to change that to a running stitch. Now, before I got started and decided on doing I don't know, I call him a dino. He's not really, he's kind of just like a little creature. If you haven't seen him, you can see him on my Facebook page, Stitching with Stephanie. He did a whole little photo shoot and then got a friend. So Phil and Gil are now my two little stuffies, dino plushies. Okay, so the first thing I did was I went out on the internet and I kind of Googled dino plushie, in the hoop dino plushie, or just dino plushie for that matter. And I saw different kinds of ones and, I kind of kept getting an idea from that. I knew that I wanted it to have big eyes and be really kind of chibi looking, so that's the kind of look I went for. So the one I saw that I liked, he was pretty kind of flat, kind of, pretty simple, basic. I did change it. There were things about it that, weren't my type of style. But that's how I kind of got an idea. If you have an idea floating in your head, I mean, like a gingerbread person, you know what a gingerbread person looks like. You don't really have to do much about that. You can do the same concept, or you can just start putting shapes together to create a design. So the one I saw had an oval head and pretty much a round body. Now, it wasn't exactly like that, but, a round head and an oval body. So we're going to start with the circle shape. So if you click on your show all, it's number 1. And we're going to hit the word shape, and that's going to put a circle into our hoop. At this point, I went ahead and I just want to make his head like the shape I think it should be. I like him to have a big head. So a bigger head than a body is what I like. It's kind of that look. So his head is a little bit disproportionate to his body. Now, if you're taking my class, you will receive the files from my plushie, my Phil plushie. If you are doing this on your own, just keep in mind that you will need to test this to make sure that it goes perfect. But it's not too hard. Okay. So this is what I would consider a good shape of head. It's almost over half the size, about half the size of the total hoop up here. Okay, so I like that size head. So then I'm going to do shape again, and I'm going to get the circle again. And this time I'm going to make the bottom of his body. Now I do use the center area quite a bit to kind of get him all lined up. Now remember, this is your plushie, so you can make him look however you want. So this one I'm making a little bit different. Let's make his head a little bit bigger. And again, you can change the proportions as you see fit. If you start seeing that, oh, I want it bigger, or oh, I want it smaller, go ahead and do that. Okay. So I'm kind of liking this shape of his body. So now think about how this is going to stitch out in cloth. This line is not going to be there, and neither is this line. So his body shape is really just this outside line. Okay? So now that we have his body, we need to create the stitch line. So this is just basically us creating the image, or what we feel like we want the image to be. So I'm going to go ahead, and for this, I'm going to go to point create. I'm going to keep that running stitch, and I'm going to do create area or line. Now, when you're doing a plushie, it works just like an applique. So I need a placement stitch so that I know where to put my fabric. And since this is going to be one solid piece of fabric, I'm just going to start placing my points around this outside line. And again, don't forget, this is your creation. So if you want to alter it, you can. And then you're just going to put your lines around the outside. And they don't have to be perfect because, again, this blue line, the lines we originally created, are going to disappear here in a minute. Okay, we're going to go ahead and stop right there. Kind of smooth these out. Okay. I like that. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and right click to set the points. If you look to the left, you notice that he now has what looks like a little body. So we are going to delete step 2, and we're going to delete step 3. So now we have his little body. We're going to right click on step 2, and we're going to do properties, and we're going to go ahead and do closed border line. This is going to close his little head up and say apply and say okay, or you don't have to apply. Okay, so now you can see where that looks really terrible. You know, there's a little few places. So we're going to go to the home tab, and we're going to click edit points. This is going to pop up all those points so that I can now adjust and kind of smooth him out. Now remember, he doesn't have to be perfect because once he's stitched together, this is very forgiving. So you don't want anything that's too obvious, but you can definitely have some little hiccups and it's not gonna show, because once you get him all stuffed and fluffed, he's gonna not show that very well. Okay. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So I now have his body. So now we have to worry about his face. On my design, he has 2 eyes, a little mouth, some teeth, and a little belly panel. So the running stitch, we're going to right click on step 2 and say copy. We're going to right click on step 2 and say insert color change. I'm just going to go ahead and pick the color above the one I just had, just so that I know. I'm going to say okay. And I'm going to right click on step 3 and I'm going to choose paste. And there it is. Okay, so what we have done is we have created our placement stitch and our fabric tack down stitch. You don't need, you're not going to trim this fabric, so you can leave it as a running stitch because you just want it to stay put. So a running stitch is going to be just enough to do it. So let's work on its face now. So we have his placement stitch and his tack down stitch, and the next step to our plushie would be to do his face. So we're going to go to quick create. We're going to turn on our pattern fill and we're going to turn off our stitch. So our running stitch, we're going to turn that off. And his eyes, I want to do his eyes as round. And I want to make his eyes how I want. Get a little bigger maybe. My other one had really big eyes. So we're going to do this. I'm going to do this one a little bit different. So I'm going to make him have smaller eyes, maybe. We'll see. Okay, so I made one of my eyes. I'm going to right click on step 4. I'm going to do insert color change, and I want his eyes to be black, which is 2296 as far as Robus and Anton colors go. So we're going to turn his eye black. We're going to right click on step 6, which is that eye. We're going to copy, make sure that it's down here on your clipboard. Right click on step 6 and choose paste. That is going to stick the eye right on top of the other eye. And I'm going to go ahead and I am going to just move it. I'm going to use the grid. And I am going to use the grid to kind of line it up. So this will be this one. Okay, so here's center. And I'm 2 grid squares from the center, 2 grid squares in the center, and 3 grid squares down for his eyes. Okay. So again, you can leave his eyes like this. You could change them however you want. If you wanted to make them oblong. You know what? Actually, I want one of each. Oh, he's going to be so cute. And I'm going to center this up. The other one. Okay. Does that look about center? Okay. So again, this is your creation, so you can do whatever you want. So I'm going to kind of go with this, with what different than the other. And then I'm going to do insert color change, and I'm going to do 2297, which is Snow White. And I'm going to say okay. Okay, so again, I like the chibi look, which is the cutesy little look. So I'm going to add some highlights to my eyes. And my highlights are going to be circle shapes. So I'm going to hit shape. And that is really big. So I'm going to hit the Control Shift key. And I'm going to shrink that down. And then I'm going to drag it up here. I'm going to put that in his little eye. I'm going to hit the Control key and the C key on my keyboard. That's going to copy that. And then I'm going to hit Control key on my keyboard and the letter V. And that's going to paste that. And if you notice up on the left, I now have 2. I'm going to take that one and I'm going to drag it to this eye. Okay. And then I'm going to add one more highlight, a tinier one. So I'm going to hit shape once again. I'm going to hit my Shift and Control key. I'm going to shrink it way down a little bit further. Okay. And then I'm going to grab it and I'm going to move it up here. And I'm going to Control copy, Control V. I'm going to grab it and I'm going to move that one over here. Okay. So I'm happy with my eyes. Again, you can make your eyes the same size. You can leave out the chibi marks or the highlights in the eyes. You could change them the way they look. I mean, it's totally up to you. This is your creation. You can do with it what you want. All right. Now, my other one had teeth. So I'm going to make teeth for this one. However, I need to really do his mouth first so that I know where to kind of put his teeth. So I'm going to click on or right click on step 12 and I'm going to do insert color change. And I'm going to make my little monster purple. So I'm going to choose purple for his mouth. Okay, instead of pattern fill, I want to change my running stitch to satin line. So my pattern fill is off. I have satin line chosen. Oops, I need to click on point create. Okay, my choices are still chosen. This time I'm going to click create area or line. And I'm going to make his smile. So making his smile is totally up to you how you want to do it. You can, I pretty much just come in here and kind of guesstimate and adjust it. Oops. Adjust it how I see fit. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my basic points. So just a basic smile. So just a few points. And I'm going to right click. Okay, I really don't like his smile like that. So I'm going to go home and I'm going to edit points and I'm going to adjust his smile. Not loving that one either. Definitely not. So you can kind of do his smile however you want. All different kinds of ways. All right. I am 1, 2, 3.5, 1, 2, 3.5. So that's right. They're about the same spot. Okay. So I'm going to kind of go with that. Now on satin line, let's go to our properties real quick. And that is a really wide smile. So we want to change the width to about 4. Density can remain at 3. And we're going to say, okay, there, that's better. So he's got a better smile now. Now I'm going to go back to step 12 and I'm going to click on step 12 so that it is highlighted. And I'm going to go back to quick create. So now I want to add his teeth. So my original one had triangular teeth. So his teeth were very, very pointy. They were triangles. But I was wondering, how would almost square teeth look? There is one down here somewhere. As far as the shape goes, that has square corners. I thought one had rounded corners. Maybe I'm missing it. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this one kind of has rounded corners, so kind of more like a tooth shape, I guess. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to choose pattern fill, and I'm going to turn off my satin line, so no satin line. And I'm going to do shape. So there's his tooth, and I'm going to shrink it down and make it taller. Narrow and taller. And I'm going to come and I'm going to put it over here. I like that. I think I'm going to stick with just one tooth. You can add as many teeth as you want. I kind of like this tooth as just being one. So I'm going to go with this. So my little guy, dinosaur, monster, whatever you want to go with, he has different size eyes, a little tooth, a big smile. So now his tummy. I like the tummy detail just because it adds a pop of color. So I'm going to continue with the that portion of it. But I'm actually not going to place it after his smile. I'm actually going to place it after the running stitch. So I'm going to click on step 4 and right click on that. And I'm going to say insert color change. And then I'm just going to come in here and grab a color that I know I haven't used, which is going to be Paris blue in my case. And I'm going to say, okay. So once I do that, I want his tummy shape to be a circle. You could do a flower. You could do all kinds of things. You could put a name on it. Again, once you learn the concept of this, you can make it however you want. I'm going to go ahead and click on the shape. I'm going to turn off the pattern fill, and I'm going to change the line to running stitch, and I'm going to say shape. And I'm going to come in here and put his tummy in the center, and then hit my shift and control keys and expand it so his tummy gets big. And then I'm going to kind of come up. Yeah, I like that. Okay. So you may be wondering why instead of just doing it down there, I moved it up here. And the reasoning is kind of silly because you could have so left it after the smile. But this just makes it so that all of your pieces, as far as his body, his tummy, all go down at the same time. So you can use this same color of thread. You don't have to change your thread. So if you're making a purple monster, you can thread that purple and you can use it for everything that's getting stitched down right now, and you're not having to change your thread. That is the only theory behind this. You can, by all means, if you wanted to do it some other way or add it down there, you can. It doesn't matter because all this is going on. That it doesn't matter until the very final step. Okay, so we have a running stitch. We're going to right click on that and say copy. We're going to right click on step 6 and say insert color change. I'm going to choose baby blue in my case, just a color I haven't used. I'm going to right click on step 7 and say paste. I'm going to right click on step 8 and say properties. And from running stitch, I'm going to change to double stitch and I'm going to say okay. Okay, so we created the placement stitch for his tummy and the tack down and trim stitch for his tummy. So the double stitch gives you extra stitching, so it holds it down nice and tight so you can trim around that, especially with that fleece like I'm going to use to stitch him out. All right, so we need the satin line around the tummy detail. So I've already got this copied to my clipboard, so I'm going to right click on step 90 and say paste. And I'm going to right click on step 20 and say properties. And I'm going to change that to the satin line with the width is 4 and say okay. Okay, there's my tummy detail. Now, I made the smile and his tummy the same color. You could easily right click on step 90, say insert color change, and you could actually just change the colors. So maybe one time you want his mouth to be black and his tummy to be blue or something. If you want to add that color change, you can. In the one I created that is provided in the file, there is not a color change. His mouth is the same color as his stomach. And if you wanted to change that, you would have to stop it. You could also edit it if you so chose. Okay, so technically, all of his cuteness or all of the things that make him what he is are done. So his decorative stitching is all done. He has his stomach, he has his everything. So I am going to look this over, see if I want to change anything down here. I think I do. So I'm going to go home and I'm going to edit the points. And I am going to come in here and change these. And don't forget, you would have to change 2 because 1 is the same. If you only wanted to change 1, so let's say that there were some big discrepancies and you just wanted to change 1. You could delete one of them, edit this one's points, this is really bothering me down here. And this is off. This needs to be whiter. So what I'm doing now is I'm kind of matching dot for dot so that it kind of ends up being a little more even. Oops. Okay. All right. I like it. Okay, so now I'm going to right click on step 2, say copy, right click on step 3, say paste, and that's going to give me my tack down stitch back. All right, let's go over this one more time really quickly just so that you understand the order and how we've done this. So the first thing we did was create our basic shape using shapes so that we could kind of create what we wanted. Then we did a running stitch, so we went to point create and we placed our points around the shape that we created. We removed those shapes and that gave us our placement stitch. Then we copied and pasted it so that it became our tack down stitch. And then we did his tummy, or his tummy goes next. So his running stitch for his tummy for the placement stitch, and then the tack down and trim line. Then we added the black to do the eyes. We did the white to do the highlights and the teeth or the tooth. I'm going to zoom in real quick because, okay, so I want to point this out why I did this. So I zoomed in because I wanted to make sure that my tooth was not outside of my satin line and that it was completely covered. So this gives me nice coverage, but it's not down outside of my stitch line. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out. So the tooth, we technically did our smile before we did our tooth, but it comes after the stitch line so that it will cover the bottom of our tooth. And then we did the satin line around our tummy. Okay, so our last thing we're going to do as far as him being digitized or getting ready to be stitched out is we have to do the final step. We have to sew him up. You might be thinking, well, he doesn't have any arms, legs, tail, any hair or scales. Why would we do this? Well, because his arms and legs and everything are going to be done in another hoop. And yes, we're going to use this to kind of design it, but we need him exported first. And our final stitch is going to be on him. So we're going to stitch out the arms and legs and tail and everything first, cut those out, lightly stuff them, and then put them aside and stitch him out. And then his feet, we're going to put those on, and then we're going to stitch that final stitch. So we're going to right click on step 21, insert color change, and we're just going to choose a color that's not on our list. And we're going to go to point create. We're going to change this to a triple stitch. We want a nice tight stitch. So triple stitch is what we're going to choose, and we're going to do create area or line. Now, don't forget, you have to leave an opening. So all my stuffies so far, their opening has been on the right side. So as I'm looking at him on the screen, it would be to the right. I've been leaving the opening. His tail's been to the left. This one, I'm going to switch. I want the tail to be on the right. So I want my opening to be on the left because we do need some place to turn it. So I give about 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 millimeters, so 6 grid squares for an opening. You can give a little bit more, maybe 7. But I'm going to go ahead, and his arm is going to go here. His leg is going to go here, and his other leg is going to go here. So you want it between the arms and the legs. So I'm going to say his tail is going to go here. So I'm going to start here. And I'm going to place my first point. And then I'm going to kind of just go along. And I'm going to kind of do this quickly because I am going to adjust it here in a minute. And I'll show you why. So I'm just kind of putting some points, and they don't have to be perfect at this point. And you may be like, oh, well, that's just really messy. It is, but don't worry about it because we're going to fix it. Okay, and then I'm going to end right here. Maybe here. You don't want too small an opening because you want them to fit through, but you don't want too big because then you have to stitch it. Okay, once I have basically the points all basically around him, I'm going to right click. And now I'm going to click on the Home tab and Edit Points. Okay, I am going to use the Zoom to Rectangle, and I'm going to zoom in. And then click Edit Points again, sorry. Okay, I want this stitch line to be right to the inside of that stitch line. Okay, so I'm going to basically run right on the inside of this line. Oops. And it does not have to be perfectly inside. It's just going to be so that that stitch doesn't pop out and be shown anywhere because it does get stitched on that red fabric. So you just don't really want to see that final or that other stitch outside of the final one. And if you need to insert some points to get it perfect, you can. And then make sure to click on Edit Points again. There we go, that's better. And you're just going to kind of go around and place these points so that it is somewhat inside of that line. again, remember, because this is a stuffy or a plushie or a little tiny stuffed animal, it does not have to be perfect on these stitches because it's going to get stuffed and fluffed and moved around. So it does not have to be perfect. Sometimes when you insert points, it like messes everything up. Another one. All right, and you go all the way around him or her. Oops, that's gonna give a weird look right there. Fix that. You just don't want it to be like really lumpy. You want it to be pretty smooth. Okay, and when you're done, now it also helps if you match your fabric perfectly with your thread. Then you can really get away with a lot more if it matches. But if you're one of those people who's like, you know, this is close enough, then I do recommend taking the time to do this because it will pay off in the end. It'll make your plushie look really nice and not have any stitches left out, or you can't see something that you really don't want it to be there or whatever. It's a wee bit tedious, but you know, it's worth it. I always tell people that, you know, taking your time, you know, you're like, oh, I wish this didn't take so long, you know. But if you take your time and you do it right, generally you won't have to do it again. When I get in a hurry is when I end up having to make a bunch of changes. If I'm taking my time and really thinking about it as I go, very rarely do I have to make corrections anymore. Still do sometimes, especially on complicated things that I haven't done before, but this is pretty basic. It's basically applique. You're basically making an applique. All right, then we're going to zoom to rectangle, or zoom out so that we can see it. Check in. There's a weird spot right here. We don't want that. So I'm going to come in here and fix that. All right. Okay, he looks pretty good. All right, so I'm going to call him good. So I'm going to go File. I'm going to go Export. Say okay. I'm going to put him on my D drive, and I'm going to do him Dino 2 body. Make sure you specify what it is. If you see like Dino body, Dino parts, that's his arms and legs. So Dino 2 body. I'm going to export that, and then I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to do Dino 2 body and save it. Excuse me. Sorry. Okay. All right. So the body is saved and exported. So that is technically ready for stitch out. But again, we need arms and legs. So we're going to go back to Quick Create. We're going to do running stitch. And now we want to think about what our arms and legs look like and our tail looks like. So the arms that I did on my other one were just kind of like little arms. So what I used for that one, and I'm going to use the same thing on this one because I liked it, is number 17. And you might be wondering, why on earth would you use number 17? I looked down here for the rectangles, and again, there's these ones. But that's going to make his little arms really square. So his little handies are going to be square, not round. Now, if that's the look you're going for, by all means, grab that one up and make its little arms like that. But I wanted the hands to be round, so I chose number 17. Then I just put your shape in just like we have been, and you're like, okay, that definitely can't be a hand. And now watch. If I pull it down, it turns out like that. This isn't actually too bad for what we're going for, but I think it's a little pointy in my mind. So I'm going to click undo twice to get back to this little shape that I did. So the first thing that I did was I added 2 points. So I'm going to go to the Home tab and I'm going to do Insert Points. And I'm going to hit my Shift key and I'm going to put a square point there and a square point there. So a new point here and a new point there. And then I'm going to click Edit Points. I'm going to take the point that I just created and I'm going to drag it down. And I'm going to take the next one and I'm going to drag it down. Okay, what I did was I added 2 points to create a new shape from the original shape. So now I have this shape, which is more in line of what I want. Now, it is way too big. So we're going to go to Box Select. That's going to select my whole thing. And I'm going to make it smaller. But I'm actually going to make it narrower, but wider. So how big is that? 10, 20, we're going to make it, so that's about an inch. Okay, that works. Okay, now remember, oops, maybe a little bit bigger because it gets stuffed. Okay, remember this gets stuffed and it has to be sewn in. So you might be like, oh, it's really long. But when you think about it, it has to have at least 1/4 of an inch outside of it. So here, let's change my view to my grid size and let's go 1/2 an inch is 12.5. So if 1/2 an inch is, well, hold on. Okay, 1 inch is 25.4 is 1 inch, right? Yeah, that's 1 inch. So if we divide that by 2, that gives us 1/2 an inch, so 12.7. All right, we're going to do 1/2 an inch. 12.7. Okay. All right, so there's my grid square. So this is basically 1 inch. Home, Box Select again. Click on my little handy. Okay. So this is 1 inch wide. So that's not a horrible size for him. I think it's proportional, maybe a little bigger. Maybe like 2.5 grid squares. Okay, and then we're going to rotate it just so we can kind of see how that's going to look. Okay, so that's basically kind of how it's going to look. So you're going to have basically about 1/2 an inch outside of here. And again, you're going to place this better. So you really do it more like that. And then, so it looks like it has little fat arms. So we're going to undo the rotation. And I am going to go back to that 1 inch, I think. Maybe like that. Okay. So again, this is your design. So this is how you do it. This is how you basically design something. You move it around, you line it up, and you're like, you know what? That's perfect. That's what I like. Okay, and they're a little long, so we're going to shorten them down a little bit. Okay. All right, I like that. So now I want to unrotate it so that it's pretty much straight up and down. And remember, it doesn't have to be perfect because guess what? It's going to be cut out and sewn on him. Okay, so there's his little arm. Perfect. I like his arm. I'm good with that. We're going to put that over here. Okay, if you wanted to, you could put all of his arms and legs on. Let's do that. We're going to change my mind. We're going to put all his little arms and legs on. Okay, Control Copy, Control V. I'm going to mirror it, and then I'm going to move it over here. Okay, so there's his little arms. Okay, now we want to put on legs. So the legs are going to hang down here. So you're not really going to see them. So we're going to actually zoom out here in a minute, but we're going to create them first. So we're going to go back to Quick Create. And I wanted the legs to look different than the arms. I didn't want the same shape. I thought that his arms should be distinct from his legs. So I liked this shape where it's bigger and then goes narrow. So I want this shape right here. And it's like a teardrop. And you could pick something else. If you saw something better that you liked, you could pick something else. This is the one that I thought was what I wanted as far as the leg goes. So I'm going to hit shape, and here's his leg. Now, as it stands, it's going to kind of be a really weird shape because this points, and we don't really want that. We don't want it so point. So again, we're going to go home, and we're going to edit points again, and we're going to alter this shape. And I think right about here. I'm going to, oops, undo. Make sure you choose edit points, not insert points. And I'm going to choose right about here. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay. And then there's one right there. And then I'm going to make a square one there. Then I'm going to go in and delete all of these. So I'm going to go delete points. And I am going to delete all the rest of the round points from the other side. And then I'm going to go to edit points. And I'm going to drag these kind of up. Okay. So this is kind of my idea of a leg. Now, it is different from my other one, but I kind of like this one. Now, again, those of you who took my in-person classes, you will have mine so that you can stitch out the exact one that I did. But I don't know about that. I'm going to curve it in. Give it a little curve in. Okay, so you create it however you want. So it's definitely over an inch, right? At the opening. Yeah, okay. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And I'm going to add my little leg. Okay, it's definitely too long. So back up here. Undo, 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 undo. Okay, that's fine. Oops, zoom out. Box select. Okay, so I'm going to make it a little shorter. Edit points. And I'm going to move these down to right about here. You may be wondering, oh, well, you could just cut it off. You can. I was just showing you that you can alter it. Then I'm going to zoom out a little bit more again. Here's this little leg. Turn it down here. Okay. Control copy, Control V. Mirror it. Okay. So there are the arms and the legs. And so now we want a tail. Trying to decide if those little legs are a little fat. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. So tail, we're going to go back to our quick create and we're going to click on shapes. The tail was really kind of difficult for me to kind of wrap around my head on how to make the tail. The moon is what I ended up opting for. So I did end up, I think it's this moon that I ended up using. You could give, so I don't know if you know who Pikachu is, but you could do a lightning bolt tail. I mean, since this is your creation, you could totally do a different type of tail. This is one that I kind of thought about. You know what? I'm going to give this one a whirl. Okay, so I'm going to choose this one for him or her or whatever I'm going to make it. And I'm going to hit shape. And I am going to increase the shape. See, this is why I didn't want to opt with this one. Love it, except for the tip. It's a little too pointy, I think. This is all going to get lost. Let's delete this one real quick. Let's try, well, okay, let's try this one again. Hold on. Let me see about altering it. Okay, so let's make it bigger. And rotate. Okay, so then go to home, edit points. So if you haven't figured out, it is a lot of just kind of fidgeting with things a lot. You know, you're just kind of working with everything, fidgeting with it. Yeah, this is the part I hate. There we go. And you just kind of have to get the feel of it to see how things go. It's all part of the creative process. You know, you see something in your head and you're like, okay, now how am I going to actually accomplish this to make it look like I want it to look? So you find the shape that's closest and you start just kind of manipulating that shape. Okay. I'm kind of liking that too. I do not know how this would stitch out. I'm going to have to find out when I stitch him. It's going to be kind of interesting. Okay, so we have arms, legs, and a tail. And now we need something on his head. I'm going to go back to Quick Create. And on the one I did, I used this right here. I thought that was a perfect spike shape. I liked that one. As you look through them, you could be like, well, I like this one better. You know, I don't like that. We could do rounded ones like this. Let's try this one. Shrink this down a little bit. Now remember, part of it's going to be inside of his head. Control copy, Control V. Turn. Control V. Turn. Okay. So let's fit him to the hoop. We are. Let's zoom out. There. Okay. Like I said, you know, this is your guy. You can figure out if you like it or not, what you want. You could add some to the tail too if you wanted to. I don't know if I like them smaller or bigger. I think they need to be bigger. So I'm going to delete these two. Okay. So I think I like this size the best. So I'm going to take this one and put one there. Control copy, Control V. And I'm going to mirror this one. Control V. And Control copy, Control V. I just didn't want to rotate them. I could have. Okay. So you can do whatever you want. You can leave those off. You can add more. It is totally up to you. But I'm kind of liking it. I have no idea what this is going to stitch out like, but we're going to find out. Okay. So here we go. So we have the pieces, but you can't really stitch them like this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to File, and we're going to say New Window. This is going to open up a new window so that and we're going to do Start a New Design with no picture, and we're going to change that hoop to the 260 by 200 and say okay, and then finish. Okay, we don't care about the grid on this. We don't care about anything except for copy and paste. So since I have, that was so stupid. I cannot believe I just did that. Good thing that he's still up. Okay. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go Control Copy. I'm going to switch to Window 2 and I'm going to go Control V for paste. I'm going to do Box Select and I'm going to bring this in here. Okay. It really does not matter what direction this goes. I am going to reline it up vertical, horizontal, and I am going to put this here. Okay. And then I'm going to copy that one, paste, paste, and Control V is paste, guys, if you didn't know. Okay, I think I want 4. I might not use all 4. I might only use 2, and these can be pretty close together. Okay, these are done out of felt. So this is a cut line. So what I really need is something to show me where I'm going to put my fabric, but I don't want to do each one of those. That seems silly to me. So I am going to click on step 1 and I'm going to go to Quick Create and I'm going to turn off pattern and I want that running stitch again. And I'm going to choose the square. I'm going to hit shape. I'm going to drag this over here, make sure it's inside of the hoop. And I want it just to be outside of the area. Just like that. Okay. Make sure that it is totally in the hoop. Once you make sure that is, we're going to right click on step 2, say insert color change. I'm just going to pick the next color. I'm going to right click on step 2, say copy, right click on step 3, say paste. Okay, so I've done my placement stitch for my felt, my tack down stitch for my felt. I'm going to right click on step 4, insert color change, take the next one in the list, say okay. Okay, so then this is going to create all my cut lines. So it is just a line for you to cut on so that you can have the shape that you created. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If you have questions, make sure you ask me either on Stitching with Stephanie on Facebook or ask in the comments. Okay, right click on step 9, insert color change, take the next one in the loop, say okay. We're now going to go back to our first one and we're going to go grab the little arms. So I'm going to do Control Copy on the arm. I'm going to make sure the arm is here. I'm going to go back to the second one and I'm going to right click and say Paste. So here's my little arm. So I am again going to make this one horizontal as close as I can get it. Okay, I'm bad at this horizontal thing. Okay, perfect. Close enough to perfect. Okay, so this would be my placement stitch. Okay, guys, this is, I had this whole thing done and recorded and I went to test stitch it out and I realized that I totally did the last part of the lesson entirely wrong. So I am going to show you how to do this the correct way. So if you notice over here that you have all these different colors, so I'm going to go ahead and I am going to delete these. I'm going to delete them so that you understand what's going on. I hate doing this, I really do, because I literally did all this. Oops, hold on. This one, and then shift key. Okay, bye-bye all that work. Okay, it was wrong anyway. All right, so you should have this done. So we're going to right click on step 11, you would go to insert color change, choose your color, and it would pop up as this. Okay. We're going to go to point create now. This is the part that I messed up on. You have to leave an opening for turning, so you can't just copy and paste this piece, which is kind of what I did last time, even though I've done this I don't know how many times now. Okay, so anyway, we're going to click create area or line. You're basically going to put points right back alongside of the design. I'm going to go ahead and right click. I am going to zoom in, and then I'm going to go home, edit points, and I'm going to clean this up. I want the line to be basically as close to on as possible. This, again, the bottom one is a placement stitch, so these really don't matter that much. But just so you know to do this. Okay. And again, you want to leave this bottom open so that you can put some stuffing in there. Now, as I stitch this out, I'm going to zoom out. As I stitch this out, I did realize that these were a little small, so I'm going to box select, and I'm going to box select both of those together, and I am going to just make this a little bit larger. Okay. All right. Right click on step 13, choose insert color change, go to your next color, say okay. Click on step 11, hold down your control key, click on step 13, right click, choose copy. That's going to copy both of those. Right click on step 14 and say paste. It's going to come in as a group. You are going to move that group over. And I do give myself plenty of space so that I have cut room. So once you have that moved over, you're going to right click on where it says group, and you're going to do ungroup. You're going to right click on step 15, insert color change, choose your next color, say okay. Okay, so now we have both of our arms done. So let's go to right click on step 17, insert color change, choose your next color, say okay. We're going to go back to our main screen, and we're going to get one of our legs, control copy, make sure it's on the clipboard, switch back to the other hoop, go ahead and choose paste. I'm going to go ahead and straighten it up. You guys do not have to straighten these up, I just do. And since my arm was a little small, I'm assuming that this one's a little small, so I'm going to go ahead and increase the size while I'm here. Okay. All right. Move that down a little bit. Okay. Once it's here, we're going to right click on step 19, insert color change, go to our next color, say okay. Point create again, create area or line, should still have your double stitch, and the same thing, we're going to leave that top open. We're going to plot our points. And then right click to set them. I'm going to zoom to rectangle. I'm going to go home, edit points, adjust my points. And I'm sorry if there's any noise in the background. I forgot to shut my door, and I wasn't going to stop and go shut it. All right, once that's good, we're going to zoom back out. Click on step 19, control click on step 20, right click, say copy. Right click on step 21, insert color change, choose your next color, say okay. Right click on step 22, paste. That's going to paste that group. We're going to move it over. We're going to right click on group and say ungroup. Right click on step 23, insert color change, go to your next color, say okay. Okay, so now we have our legs, all of our legs. Placement, seaming. Placement, seaming. Okay, then we're going to go back, right click on step 25, insert color change, choose our next color, say okay. Go to our first window, right click on our tail, say copy, make sure it's on our clipboard. Go back to our other one, right click on step 26, choose paste. And you may have to adjust things, especially with it being so big now that I've increased them. Okay, once you do that, right click on 27, insert color change, choose your next color, say okay. Same thing, point create, make sure it's double stitch, create area line. Go ahead and place those points around the tail, leaving it open. Oops, shift. Right click to set the points, home, edit points. Go ahead and clean that up. And you are good to go. All right, that's it. Go ahead and go File, Export, say OK. I had already done this, so I'm going, oh, I forgot my USB stick. Oh, well, I'll save it to my desktop real quick. Okay, go ahead and say Export, and then File, Save As, dinoparts.edo desktop. We're good. Say save. Yeah. Okay. And you're all set. I know that last part I went really fast on. Unfortunately, I had something come up and I needed to get finished. So if you guys have any questions, hit me up. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure if you want to see this in a photo, go ahead and follow me on Stitching with Stephanie on Facebook and Instagram. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and hit the like button. If you want to see more videos by me, hit subscribe. And my son is in school, so I'm hoping to post more videos. Thanks for watching. Have a good night. Bye.